The silence from the palace has always been a weapon, but tonight, that weapon was finally turned inward. Just minutes ago, Buckingham Palace did something almost no one in the diplomatic or royal circles expected. They dropped the mask of privacy and admitted the chilling reality behind Prince Harry's final, permanent exclusion from the royal estate. For years, the narrative was about logistics and security, but the statement released at exactly 7:02 p.m. tells a much darker story. It wasn't just a relocation. It was a surgical removal of a son from the geography of his own heritage. The announcement hit the digital newsrooms like a cold winter wind. There was no choreographed press conference, no smiling aides to soften the blow, just a stark, clinical acknowledgement that the prince would no longer have any footprint on the lands he once called home. Across London, as the fog settled over the Thames, the reaction was immediate and visceral. In the pubs of Chelsea, people stopped mid-conversation to stare at the scrolling headlines on their phones. The sentiment was a mix of shock and a grim realization. The firm had finally decided that blood was no longer thicker than the institution. For older observers, those who remember the young boy walking behind his mother's coffin, this news carries a particularly painful resonance. Seeing that last connection to his childhood home being severed not by choice, but by a formal decree, is a chilling testament to how far the monarchy is willing to go to protect its optics. The palace spent decades perfecting the image of a united family, but tonight they confirmed that the unity was a stage play, and the stage has finally been dismantled. Inside the palace, senior staff who were briefed on the chilling truth moved with a somber, robotic efficiency. They had prepared for the fallout, for the accusations of cruelty, and for the inevitable questions about the king's paternal heart. But even among the most hardened aides, there is a sense that a line has been crossed that can never be uncrossed. One longtime observer noted that this wasn't transparency. It was the finality of a system reaching its breaking point, choosing survival over the soul of the family. The crown doesn't just manage feelings, it manages power. And tonight, power won. To understand why this exclusion feels so definitive, we must look at the cold mechanics of the decision-making process within the palace. For months, the public was led to believe that Prince Harry still held a key to a cottage, a small patch of land that served as a tether to his former life. But the truth admitted tonight is far more chilling. Those keys weren't just turned. The locks themselves were replaced in a calculated move to erase Harry's physical presence from the royal estate entirely. This wasn't a sudden outburst of anger from King Charles. It was a slow, institutional erosion designed by the firm to ensure that the Sussex brand could never again claim the prestige of royal geography. Inside the private corridors of Windsor, the decision was described not as an eviction, but as a rationalization of assets. This clinical language hides the jagged edge of a family being torn apart. Insiders suggest that Princess Anne, ever the pragmatist, was instrumental in finalizing the documents. Her logic was simple and devastating. A monarchy in transition cannot afford to house ghosts. By keeping a residence for Harry, the palace was inadvertently keeping a door open for the very chaos they sought to contain. The chilling truth is that the king was presented with a binary choice: his role as a father or his duty as the CEO of the monarchy. He chose the latter. The psychological weight of this move is immense. For Harry, the royal estate wasn't just about luxury. It was the only place in the United Kingdom where he felt safe under the umbrella of royal security. By removing him from the estate, the palace has effectively made him a stranger in his own country. They have forced him into the open, stripped of the sanctuary that once defined his childhood. This is the finality that the statement hints at. It is a message sent not just to Harry, but to the world. The tether is cut, the cord is severed, and there is no longer a room at the inn for the Duke of Sussex. The most disturbing aspect of this admission is the timing. Coming at a moment when the monarchy is struggling with health crises and a shrinking pool of working royals, one would think they would want to keep family close. Instead, they have chosen to push their own blood further away. This suggests an institutional fear so great that they would rather face the public outcry of being heartless than the internal risk of being vulnerable. As the news circulates through global headlines, the question remains: what does a father say to a son when he tells him he is no longer welcome on the family's land? The palace has admitted the truth, but they have yet to account for the soul-crushing cost of such a victory. The chilling truth behind the palace's latest admission lies in a detail that most casual observers missed: the strategic removal of Prince Harry's last legal foothold on British soil. To the public, the eviction from Frogmore Cottage was framed as a matter of administrative efficiency, a simple redistribution of Crown assets. But the reality revealed tonight is far more calculated. By stripping Harry of a permanent residence within the royal estate, the palace has effectively triggered a security trap that changes his status in the eyes of the law and the state forever. In the United Kingdom, the provision of high-level police protection is often tied to one's status and presence within sovereign territory. For years, Harry relied on the royal estate as his only guaranteed sanctuary, a place where the rules of the crown provided a shield that money alone could not buy. Tonight's admission confirms that this shield has been intentionally shattered. Without a home on royal land, Harry is no longer a resident under the protection of the family's private security apparatus. He is now, quite literally, a private citizen standing in the cold, forced to navigate the dangerous waters of international travel without the institutional shadow that once guarded his every move. The psychological toll of this sanctuary death cannot be overstated. Frogmore Cottage was not just a gift from the late Queen. It was the final bridge to a mother whose memory Harry has fought so hard to preserve. By burning that bridge, King Charles has authorized a form of administrative violence that echoes through the generations. Insiders suggest that the decision was finalized during a somber meeting at Sandringham, where the men in grey suits presented the king with a map of the estate, highlighting the Sussex vacancy as a necessary step for the monarchy's survival. The chilling truth is that the palace didn't just want the house back. They wanted to erase the precedent of a non-working royal having a claim to royal soil. This is the hidden exile that the world is only now starting to witness. It is a slow, methodical stripping away of the prince's identity. When the palace admits that the exclusion is final, they are admitting that Harry has been ghosted by the very institution he was born to serve. The staff at Windsor report a haunting atmosphere as the last of Harry's belongings were crated and shipped across the Atlantic. There were no farewells, no royal honors, only the sound of heavy doors locking and the chilling realization that the gates of the estate are now a wall, designed to keep the prodigal son from ever finding his way home again. The machinery of the crown has spoken, and it has chosen to be efficient rather than merciful. The chilling truth admitted by the palace tonight extends far beyond the physical keys to a cottage or the locking of a gate. It reaches into the very bank accounts and financial structures that once defined Prince Harry's existence as a senior royal. Tonight, we are witnessing what can only be described as a financial excommunication. For decades, the golden umbilical cord, the taxpayer-funded and duchy-funded support system, was the lifeblood of Harry's royal identity. But tonight's admission confirms that this cord has not just been cut, it has been cauterized. The palace is finally admitting that the price of freedom for Harry is a total, irreversible severance from the family's wealth. To many of you watching, especially those who have worked hard to build a legacy for your own children, this feels like a betrayal of the most fundamental parental duty. But inside the palace, this is seen as fiscal responsibility. The chilling reality is that King Charles has been forced to act as a CEO rather than a father. By removing Harry from the royal estate, the palace is also removing him from the institutional insurance that covered his travel, his staff, and his logistical footprint in the UK. This is the accounting of the heart, where every pound spent on a non-working royal is seen as a liability to the survival of the crown itself. The psychological weight of this financial distancing is devastating. For a prince who has never truly known the real world of bills, insurance premiums, and private security costs, this is a wake-up call that feels like an ice-cold shower. The palace insiders report that the king's accountants have been working for months to ensure that not a single penny of the sovereign grant could be leaked to the Sussexes. This wasn't just about saving money, it was about stripping away the prince brand. If you don't live on the land, and you don't receive the pay, are you still a prince in anything but name? The answer from the palace tonight is a resounding no. This financial Cold War has turned the royal estate into a forbidden zone. One senior aide was overheard saying that the Sussex drain had to be plugged before the public's patience ran out. But the cost of plugging the drain is the total isolation of a son. Harry is now discovering that independence in the United Kingdom is a luxury he can no longer afford. Every time he sets foot in his home country, he is met not with the open arms of a family estate, but with the itemized invoices of a private citizen. The palace has admitted the truth. They are no longer his safety net. They are the spectators of his struggle. This is the chilling reality of a monarchy that prizes its survival over its children, a crown that is willing to let its own blood drift away into financial and geographical exile just to balance the books of public opinion. The chilling truth that the palace admitted tonight carries a weight far heavier than property or gold. It is the systematic, digital, and historical erasure of Prince Harry's very identity. Inside the walls of Buckingham Palace, there is a process known among the senior courtiers as the Great Thinning. It is a methodical removal of any evidence that a non-working royal ever held a position of influence. Tonight's confirmation of Harry's final exclusion from the estate is merely the physical manifestation of a much deeper psychological execution. The Crown is not just locking a gate, it is rewriting the family tree to ensure that Harry becomes nothing more than a historical footnote, a ghost that once haunted the corridors of power but no longer possesses a name. For those of you who value heritage and the sanctity of a family's story, what is happening right now is deeply unsettling. The palace has begun a digital purge. If you look at the official royal websites or the archives that will be studied by future generations, you will see Harry's presence being slowly, quietly diminished. His titles are being moved to the past members sections. His patronages are being reassigned to reliable royals, like Princess Anne or the Duchess of Edinburgh, and his name is being stripped of the HRH style in every official document. The palace is admitting that they are no longer protecting his legacy. They are burying it. This is the institutional ghosting that few people dare to talk about. Imagine looking at your family's history and seeing your own face being blurred out of the portraits. Staff at the Royal Archives report that instructions have been issued to streamline the records of the Sussex years. This isn't just about PR, it's about ensuring that the line of succession feels clean and unbroken by the Sussex rebellion. The chilling truth is that the palace views Harry's identity as a virus that needs to be quarantined. By removing him from the estate, they have removed the physical evidence of his belonging. He is no longer Harry of Wales or Harry of Windsor. He is now simply a man in California with a story that the Crown is trying to forget. The cruelty of this erasure is that it targets Harry's most vulnerable point, his need for belonging. Since the loss of his mother, Harry has searched for a place to call home, a place where his identity was safe. Tonight, the palace confirmed that such a place no longer exists. Even the military honors he cherished, the uniforms that were his skin and his pride, are now locked away in a vault he cannot access. One senior advisor was heard saying that the Crown must be the only sun in the sky. We cannot have smaller stars casting shadows. The palace has admitted that they are willing to sacrifice a son's identity to ensure the Crown's image remains untarnished. This is the chilling reality of the final exclusion. It's not an eviction from a house, it's an eviction from a legacy. Harry is being turned into a stranger to his own bloodline, a man forced to build a new identity on shifting sands because the granite foundation of his birthright has been reclaimed by a cold and unforgiving institution. The chilling truth that the palace admitted tonight carries a hidden signature, one that points directly to the future of the monarchy itself. This final exclusion of Prince Harry from the royal estate isn't just about King Charles's authority. It is about the silent, iron-willed ascent of Prince William. Inside the firm, the narrative has shifted from a father dealing with a wayward son to a future king securing his borders. The palace's admission reveals that William is no longer just the brother. He is the architect of a new, leaner, and far more ruthless monarchy. The chilling reality is that for William to thrive as the undisputed son of the institution, the shadow cast by his younger brother had to be permanently removed. For those of you who have watched these two brothers grow up from the young boys walking behind their mother's coffin to the men they are today, this moment feels like the ultimate tragedy. But in the cold eyes of the palace machine, it is seen as institutional necessity. The palace admitted tonight that the presence of a spare who operates outside the rules is a threat to the stability of the heir. To ensure William's path to the throne is clear of distractions, the palace has decided that Harry can no longer occupy any space, physical or emotional, within the royal geography. This is the shadow war ending in a total victory for the senior line. Inside Kensington Palace, staff report that William's resolve has only hardened over the last year. He reportedly views the Sussexes not as family members to be reconciled with, but as a reputational liability to be managed. The chilling truth is that William was likely the driving force behind the finality of this exclusion. He understands, perhaps better than anyone, that a modern monarchy cannot survive with a semi-detached member who sells the family's secrets while living on the family's land. By locking the gates of the estate, William is drawing a line in the sand. You are either with the crown, or you are a stranger to it. There is no middle ground. The psychological impact of this sibling severance is profound. William, who once shared every secret and every sorrow with Harry, is now the one presiding over his brother's exile. This is the price of the crown that few are willing to acknowledge. To be king, William must first be a judge. The palace admission tonight is a confirmation that the judge has delivered his verdict. The royal estate is now a fortress of the loyal, and Harry's absence is the loudest statement of all. One veteran courtier noted that William is building a monarchy that doesn't look back. He is clearing the deck for his own era, and that means leaving the ghosts of the past, including his own brother, behind the high walls of history. The chilling reality is that the brotherhood is dead, and in its place is a king in waiting, who prizes the purity of the institution over the complexities of the heart. The chilling truth, admitted by the palace tonight, is not merely about where Prince Harry lays his head. It is about the sovereign shield that has been intentionally dismantled. Inside the palace, protection is more than just men with earpieces. It is a legal and psychological barrier that separates the crown from the chaos of the world. Tonight's admission confirms that Harry has been pushed outside this barrier. The palace is finally coming clean about the invisible wall, a boundary that doesn't just keep people out, but effectively keeps Harry from ever feeling safe within his own birthright again. This is administrative violence, a clean, bloodless way to tell a prince that he is now entirely on his own. For many of you who remember the intense security that surrounded the late Queen, you understand that being a royal means being an institutional asset that must be protected at all costs. But the chilling reality revealed tonight is that the palace no longer views Harry as an asset. He has been reclassified as an external liability. By removing his permanent residence on the royal estate, the palace has stripped away the legal justification for his state-funded security. They have turned his safety into a bureaucratic negotiation, forcing him to sue the very government his family represents just to keep his children safe. This is the ultimate cold shoulder policy, designed to make his life in the UK as difficult and dangerous as possible. The psychological toll of this abandonment is haunting. Imagine returning to the land of your birth, the land where your mother is buried, and realizing that the institution you served for 10 years in the military has decided you are no longer worth protecting. Staff at the Home Office report that the communication from the palace regarding Harry's status has been unflinching. There are no exceptions, no special considerations for the grandson of the late Queen. The chilling truth is that the firm is using security as a leash. If Harry wants the shield, he must return to the fold on their terms. If he chooses his freedom, he must accept the vulnerability that comes with it. This is the sanctuary void that the Sussexes now inhabit. Every visit to the UK is now a calculated risk, a logistical nightmare of private guards and restricted movements. The palace has admitted that they are no longer his guardians. They are the architects of his exposure. One senior advisor recently noted that the Crown cannot provide a 24-hour shield for someone who is 5,000 miles away throwing stones at the glass house. This rhetoric hides the deeper cruelty of the situation. The palace is using the threat of physical danger to finalize Harry's psychological exile. They are letting the world know that the walls of the royal estate are now a fortress of exclusion. And for the first time in his life, Prince Harry is standing on the wrong side of the gate, unprotected and alone in the shadows of his own history. The chilling truth, admitted by the palace tonight, does not stop with the revoked keys or the locked gates for Harry. It reaches out to the most innocent victims of this power struggle, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. By dissecting the palace's announcement, we recognize a strategy of institutional excommunication that is as quiet as it is cruel. When the palace confirms Harry's final removal from the royal estate, they are simultaneously signing a decree of geographical exile for two children who carry the blood of the sovereign. For Archie and Lilibet, Windsor Castle or Frogmore Cottage are no longer their grandfather's legacy. They have become forbidden fortresses. The palace's admission tonight is a declaration that the Sussex children are now, for all practical purposes, American citizens before they are royals. This is a calculated erasure of memory. Archie and Lilibet will grow up without the sensory heritage of their birthright, without the smell of the rain on the Windsor grass, without walks in gardens that have stood for 1,000 years, and, most importantly, without the protection of the sovereign umbrella. The palace no longer views them as grandchildren to be nurtured, but as reputational risks to be kept at a safe distance across the ocean. This is the ultimate price of the freedom Harry sought, but it is a price the children are being forced to pay. Inside the dark corridors of Buckingham Palace, senior advisors understand that severing the physical bond between these children and the United Kingdom is the only way to prevent the Sussex influence from bleeding into the future of the monarchy. They are creating a genetic distance. As long as Archie and Lilibet have no bedroom, no toys, and no footprint on royal soil, they remain strangers with titles. The heartbreaking reality is that King Charles III has accepted the role of a lonely monarch over that of a loving grandfather. The palace has prioritized institutional purity over blood connection, turning these children into the ghosts of the nursery at Windsor rooms that will now remain permanently empty and cold. The cruelty of this strategy lies in its ability to strip away the right to belong. As they grow older, Archie and Lilibet will look at historical photographs and realize that while their cousins George, Charlotte, and Louis stand on the palace balcony as symbols of power, they are locked outside the wall of separation. The palace has admitted the truth. They have built an invisible but impenetrable barrier. This is not just a political divorce. It is a spiritual severance of the third generation. A veteran courtier once quietly remarked, "The crown does not see children. It only sees lines of succession and potential threats." Tonight, the world witnessed the collapse of compassion under the weight of the crown, leaving two innocent children alone in the vortex of a history they did not choose. The chilling truth admitted by the palace tonight marks the definitive end of the diplomatic era. For years, both sides played a delicate game of shadowboxing briefings, counter-briefings, and carefully worded olive branches that were never meant to be taken. But tonight's confirmation of Prince Harry's final exclusion from the royal estate signals that the palace has stopped trying to negotiate. They have moved from containment to excommunication. Inside the Sussex camp in Montecito, the reaction is reported to be one of cold resolve. The chilling reality is that when you strip a man of his home, his security, and his children's heritage, you create a person with absolutely nothing left to lose. This is the birth of the final Sussex resistance, and it is the most dangerous phase yet for the British monarchy. To those of you who believe in the sanctity of family reconciliation, what we are witnessing is the total death of trust. The palace's admission isn't just a policy change, it's a psychological declaration of war. By making the exclusion public and permanent, King Charles and Prince William have effectively burned the boats at the shore. They have signaled to Harry that there is no path back, no matter how much he apologizes or how quiet he remains. The chilling truth is that the palace has backed Harry into a corner, and history shows that a cornered prince is a liability that the crown cannot easily silence. The Sussex resistance is no longer about documentaries or memoirs. It is about survival and the protection of their own alternative narrative. Inside the royal households, there is a palpable fear of what comes next. If Harry is no longer bound by the rules of the estate, he is no longer bound by the code of silence. The palace's admission tonight has inadvertently handed Harry the ultimate nuclear option. Without a home to protect or a legacy to preserve within the UK, Harry is free to become a global insurgent against the very institution that birthed him. The firm may have won the battle for the land, but they are losing the war for the hearts and minds of the next generation. One senior analyst noted that the palace has traded a son for a temporary peace, but in doing so, they have created a lifelong adversary who knows all their secrets and has no reason to keep them anymore. The psychological atmosphere is one of profound betrayal. Harry reportedly feels that this final exclusion is a post-mortem execution of his mother's wishes. He sees the walls of Windsor not as a symbol of tradition, but as a monument to his own rejection. The final resistance will likely manifest in the courts and the global media, where the Sussexes will continue to challenge the palace's authority from the outside. The chilling reality revealed tonight is that the royal family is no longer a family. It is a fractured political entity, where blood is used as currency and exclusion is used as a weapon. As the palace prepares for the inevitable counterstrike from California, the world is left to wonder. In their quest to save the monarchy, have Charles and William accidentally destroyed the very thing that made it human? The gates are locked, the bridge is burned, and the resistance has only just begun. The chilling truth admitted by the palace tonight is the final sunset of the monarchy as we once knew it. For over 70 years, Queen Elizabeth II maintained the Big Tent philosophy, a belief that the royal family, despite its flaws, was a wide and inclusive canopy. But as the gates of the royal estate lock behind Prince Harry for the last time, we are witnessing the dawn of a new, fragmented era. This is the sunset of the old guard. King Charles, though he carries the crown, is presiding over the shrinking of his own dynasty. The admission that Harry is permanently excluded is the definitive proof that the monarchy has chosen to be a fortress rather than a family. The chilling reality is that while a fortress is safe, it is also incredibly lonely. For those of you who have followed this family for decades, the sight of a fragmented crown is deeply painful. You understand that a monarchy's strength lies in its ability to symbolize national unity. But how can an institution symbolize unity when it cannot find unity within its own bloodline? The palace's admission tonight suggests that the firm has decided to sacrifice the heart to save the head. They have prioritized the cold, hard logic of succession over the warm, messy reality of family bonds. This is the fragmented crown, a leaner, more efficient machine that may survive the 21st century, but at the cost of the very human magic that once made it beloved. Inside the palace, the silence is now absolute. The Sussex problem has been solved through exclusion, but the ghost of what could have been remains. Staff report that the king appears more isolated than ever, caught between the ironclad demands of Prince William and the haunting memory of the son he has effectively disowned. The chilling truth is that the monarchy is now a house divided against itself, and history warns us that such houses rarely stand forever without scars. The royal estate may be secure, but the soul of the monarchy is currently in exile. As the world watches the lights go out on the Sussex era in the UK, we are left to ask, is a crown worth more than a son? This is the finality of the palace's admission. They have told the truth, but they haven't told us how they plan to live with it. As we close this chapter, we must realize that the chilling truth isn't just about Harry. It's about the future of an institution that is learning to survive without its heart. The gates are shut, the locks are changed, and the sun has set on the brotherhood of the Windsors. All that remains is the crown, standing solitary and cold against the rising tide of a changing world. Thank you for staying with us through this deep dive analysis. Do you still trust the palace when it comes to these final, heartbreaking exclusions? Does the institutional survival justify the family destruction? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, for in the story of the crown, your voice is the final judge.